Back on topic here. Since your wall is bare, unlike mine, and if it's having trouble with the Ultimate Warrior face, it's definitely going to have trouble with all these faces.
Yeah.
But I think we might need to put some stuff behind you.
Are you issuing a challenge to me?
Yeah, I think the audience needs to know how you scratch that itch. Which, if you don't know, is a major Wrestling Brothers podcast thing. Because now, because of Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, both of us are back in this toy thing again. Which, I didn't really need another reason why being back in this thing.
I completely blame those guys because... And I blame you while I'm at it, matter of fact. Because I wouldn't have even thought about any of that stuff if you weren't like, hey, you should listen to Zack Ryder's podcast. Like, they talk about a lot of the stuff we did when we were younger.
We got the footage, too. So, we're definitely doing an episode on our action figure pay-per-views, which we would spend, 3 days in a row doing.
Oh, yeah.
And they were elaborate storylines that would go on for quite a while.
Yeah, we even ruined one of your dad's cameras with cough syrup because there was a bloodbath from Gangrel.
There was also, during that same pay-per-view, quote-unquote, we had an uppercut to the Godfather action figure, and its head goes flying off. So I don't even know how you kayfabe that.
No, you don't. But anyway, to answer your question, man, at Great Escape, I was able to find some, really cool stuff. Like, a lot of the singles of the Bone Crunchers were $3 a piece. Now, I'm in that store sweating because I'm about to drop some loot, right? But I needed to justify it. So I was like, all right, who's a friend I can call that will tell me that this is a good idea? I called you right away because I knew you would tell me that it was fine to buy this stuff.
You don't have to get me to push towards buying something stupid. I bought a Ghostbusters trap and a Ghostbusters backpack, and I'm pretty sure I spent $100+ at the Spirit of Halloween. I had the
That's
Spirit.
Ridiculous.
It's bad.
I mean, I have them right here. Want me to dig them out?
Yes, we're gonna have to show the audience your haul, and it did get retweeted by the Major Wrestling Brothers podcast. At this point, we've now become kind of marks, and Jeff especially. He is definitely a mark because he's got Mark Marrow and Mark Henry. But now we're super marks of the Wrestling Brothers podcast, and, well, if anything's figure-related, I send it to them, and you know what? They're pretty amazing about responding. So, what are you going to do?
But what
are you going to do, brother, when your stuffed animal runs wild on you? Okay, my Hogan just turned into Vince McMahon.
Hulk Hogan, we coming for you! All right, so I dug out the haul here. Hold on.
All right. And I also got retweeted because I told him I had to scratch the figure itch, and this came in the mail.
What did you get? Yo, is that one of the ones that, that shakes?
No, Alex Wright was not a vibrator. That was terrible. Why? Alex Wright, well, actually, he kind of looks like he would be. Let's get a shot. Look at his face. Look at his face.
Hey man, here's Alex Wright, the German.
So one of the things that I liked the most about the haul was this 99-cent beanbag brawler of Kevin Nash.
All right, the audience has to see this because I have to point out his hair. Look at his hair.
Hold on.
It is a matted mess.
But he's big sexy.
Now, sure.
Also, in there, I grabbed these for you, actually.
All right. So he ended up texting me, and he's like, so would you want this? Yes. For $1, I definitely want this.
WCW Nitro Street Rods. It's like a battle pack. One is Booker T versus Bret Hart, and the other is Chris Jericho versus Big Papa Pump.
And you know how often on WCW Nitro, Big Papa Pump was street racing.
Yeah, I don't know, but there's some pretty cool detail to the cars and stuff. I'm kind of jealous that these are yours. But yeah, here's a random Ken Shamrock Bendham, but I mean there isn't really anything special to talk about that. Now
we're going to talk about the Bendhams. I got Bendhams on this wall here too.
All right, getting into the hall. You want me to go EC Dub first?
Oh, well, first we have to point out I also had you pick up $1 Ryan Leaf because I collect Ryan Leaf stuff.
I thought I was going to be able to keep that in the bag this episode.
Oh,
But,
no,
yeah.
no, we're letting it all out. The Great Escape was his career.
While I was at the wrestling show Saturday at the fairgrounds in Nashville, I picked up this Bubba Ray Dudley for $5, and I thought it was pretty sweet. It has all the different ECW collectors on the back. But then while I was out at the Great Escape on Sunday, I found his tag team partner, Devon Dudley. I mean, you can't just have one of the Dudley boys. You got to have multiple Dudley boys, right?
You got to testify to great deals.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's kind of like fate that all of a sudden you find one ECW figure, and then the other ECW figure you find is the other Dudley. I mean, that's, what is it, 1 in 8 possibility?
Well, it could have been Big Dick Dudley that I found.
If you were finding Big Dick at the wrestling show, you were paying for something way different.
All right, so yeah, this is 1998 Jakks Pacific. This is a Bone Cruncher. This is Mark Henry, and again, I scored this guy for $3. $3.
Which, like, if you take into inflation and it's 20 years old and new old stock, which is a term I know from American Pickers, basically you got a $3 discount for waiting 20 years.
Yeah, what sense does that make, right? That's so bizarre.
It's like somebody kept it to make money, but then they completely missed out on making any kind of profit.
So this one's from 1997. This was the Mark Marrow. Again, this was $2.99. Mark Marrow. This is the WWF Superstars line, Bone Cruncher. Also, of course, you have to have the Stone Cold Steve Austin, right?
Hey, the original Stone Cold there.
Yeah, this is the...
No frills. You remember the commercial? How's it going, Vince?
How's it? Yeah, I thought. Yeah, and he Austin had his figure tucked in his back pocket,
which is what Stone Cold always used to do. Have his figure in his back pocket.
How's it going, Vince? You little punk.
Hey, wait just a minute! Oh, no.
Yeah, and for some reason, I always liked this Slammers 2 Karate Chop cane. Just because it's sweet to karate chop.
Which is a shame that they never made the Milton Bradley Karate Fighters WWE versions. That would have been a good crossover.
Oh yeah, and here's one that I actually picked up for you as well, because there were 2 Brian Pillmans that were there, and I thought I might as well pick these up, right? But it's funny, your figure actually cost $3.99. Mine was $2.99. Just so you know.
I got that. I got those pricey Brian Pillman figures.
Yeah.
It's costing you one thing off the dollar menu.
And then we jump into the Signature 4 Series, Survivor Series. This says it's the last of the bone-crunching action, and this one is obviously the People's Champion, The Rock. All right, so here we have King of the Ring, Mankind. One of the things that I mentioned to Joe was, like, when we were kids, say you could only get one figure, right? Like, you would kind of look at, first off, which guy you wanted, right? But then, like, one of the key things was how many accessories it came with. And this Foley comes with 3. You get the tire, you get the mask, and you get the sock. And I think that's kind of sweet.
Yeah. Well, then you also had the Marks Champ.
He was just the Steve Austin from the Bad Boy set, but we drew a bunch of tattoos on his arm.
Why was he the Marks Champ? Was he the champ of Marks, like Marks Showplace, or was he the champ of Marks, like just fans?
I was under the impression he was the champion of the strip club.
Oh, I didn't know that they had battlegrounds. Actually, the first time, one of the earliest memories I have of Jeff is we were sitting in class, 6th grade. And
baby.
Yeah, it's right before the classes start that day. And he goes, guess where I was this morning? And I'm like, I have no idea. It's like 6:45 or something, or 7:45. And I'm like,
do you want to tell it or should I tell it?
Where would you have been? So he hands over a Polaroid at the time, which I was actually kind of impressed because I always thought Polaroids were so cool because you didn't have to wait for film to develop.
Yeah.
And it's him in a ring, and I'm like, all right, where was there a ring? Where was the ring?
All right, so when I was a kid, my father, he was like the maintenance manager at the strip club in our hometown. So he had convinced the owner to buy a Foxy boxing ring. And my dad never half-asses anything, so he like went all out like crazy. He put smoke machines under it, laser lights and everything. And early morning, I remember I had stayed with him that weekend. So Monday he had to drop me off at school, but he had to go into work early. And he's like, well, I got to bring you with me. So just like he brings me into the strip club. Mind you, they're not open because that would be illegal, right? But it does turn out the Topless Donut shop was open downstairs, and I kind of snuck my way down to there. But he goes, hey, do you want to come out and like get into the ring? So my dad brings down the lights, turns on the fog, hits the Undertaker's theme music, gong. And I like walked out to the ring. I was like, hey, you got to get a picture so I can show Joey. He'll never believe it.
Well, I believed it.
I thought I was the king of the ring, and so did Steve Austin. I got him for $3 as well. Actually, we're gonna go into the grudge match. This is one that you convinced me to get. I almost passed up. It's Triple H versus Owen Hart, Slammy Award-winning Owen Hart,
which is to me I think would have been like the best one of the set. So I'm kind of surprised that he's like, should I get this? I'm like, you're about to buy the Blackjacks. Sorry if I ruined your next one out, but you're about to buy the Blackjacks and the Godwins and stuff like that. I'm like, why would you not get Owen Hart in box?
Yeah. All right, so my next one is Luna versus Sable. Joe can tell you how big of a Sable fan I was. Like, just like many of us in the Attitude Era, I thought she was the sexiest thing of all time.
I'm Team Sunny. Team Sunny all day.
Right?
But Jeff also arrived at school one day rocking a gigantic oversized Sable Bomb shirt.
38 special, right?
Yeah, and I remember everybody being like, that's a girl's shirt. And he's like, no, it's Sable.
No.
It's for guys.
Yep.
But they would
38 special.
They didn't let that one go as much. Like an NWO shirt was fine, but Sable Bomb was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, here we have Blackjack Bradshaw and Blackjack Wyndham, the new Blackjacks. And Joe, what's the rule when you put the new in front of anything?
It's awful. It's always awful.
And that's why nobody bought this.
Well, you remember the famous Mankind story there of him getting his kid the new Blackjack figures and Dewey being like, doesn't Santa know that I hate the new Blackjacks?
I never heard that one.
Yeah, I think it's in his first book.
All right, here we have the Too Tough Series 1, Chains and 8-Ball, the DOA. And you were a big fan of Chains in our Fed that we had.
Yeah, so in our Fed, Chains was just like comic relief. There was Chaz and Ranger Joe. Chaz is Headbanger Mosh with a wacky personality now.
Yeah.
And Ranger Joe is Grant from the Grant
Jurassic
figure
Park.
from Jurassic Park. But in our Fed, he's a midget who's also Vince McMahon's long-lost biological son before they did Hornswoggle.
Yep.
And also, he's many things. I think a future podcast we will explain the whole story of Chaz and Ranger Joe.
And one person called in, and by popular demand, the interview segment. I think we'll design this office again. Ranger Joe, find the most stupidest stuff you can find.
You mean like Al?
I mean, not like Al.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right, wish me luck.
I will.
But anyway, they had a bunch of hangers-on, and Chains also became like a weirdo. So he had way more personality than the actual Chains probably ever did.
Yeah, speaking of personality, we have Phineas I. Godwin and Henry O. Godwin.
Pig and hog.
Yep. Funny story about these guys. My dad met them at the strip club when I was a kid. Because that's where they would all go after the shows. And I remember my dad showed me one time a photo of him, Undertaker, and both Godwins. And I was like, you got to meet the Undertaker, you know?
He got to meet the Undertaker with a raging hard-on, probably.
Yeah. All right, and the last one here is Kane versus Corporate Mankind. This one comes with the mask as well. This one I actually got at the wrestling show that I went to over the weekend that I was like eyeballing all night, and eventually I was like, all right, it's the end of the show. It's still here. I got to get it. So, yeah, that was my haul. But, yeah, what do you think? Would some of these guys look good back here if I were to, like, you know, hang them up?
I don't know. Toys behind you. I don't know. Toys.
Are you serious?
I don't know. What do I think of toys? Can't. Yeah, I think we're going to have to do it. We're going to have toys behind you.
Now, the question, Joe, I've been getting some peer pressure on Twitter to let them breathe.
Some guy. He has to tell you to let him breathe, and he's got his gifts, and he's pressuring. Not allowing it. He completely is not understanding what we're trying to do with this podcast, because as this goes on, Jeff's going to build the back of his wall up here to look as nice and as pretty as mine.
Joe, what's like a purchase you made that you almost immediately regretted after, as far as some of your like pop culture stuff?
You know, there's been a few times where I don't regret it, but it always feels weird when you're buying a toy intended for a girl. Like,
all right, explain.
I have New Kids on the Block dolls. I have Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I kept my sister's NSYNC dolls.
Yeah, well, NSYNC they're legends.
When I was at a yard sale, I got this Michael Jackson doll. So it's kind of like, dude, you have dolls.
Yeah, you do.
And then for a future project, and I just did an unboxing video of this.
Yeah.
I dropped kind of stupid money on a talking Alf. But it's going towards a video, so I can justify it.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, that's the thing. Like, being an adult, it's like, oh, yeah, like, this stuff makes me feel good. Like, this reminds me of when I was a kid. And then it's like, damn it, I haven't eaten in 2 days. But I have this huge box full of bone crunchers in my closet. That's going to count for something, right?
Well, I mean...
It's the balance.
Yes, and then there's the figures that, like, you wanted, but you never got. Like, I was on this chase forever for the Zach Morris doll, because we had all the other ones, me and my sister. Never could get the Zach Morris, and it was like this elusive thing that the one time my mom saw it, she put it to his side, and then came back later to come get it after she changed her mind. Never saw it.
Gone.
And pre-eBay, gone.
Yeah.
You never see it again.
You just brought up an interesting point about eBay. I mean, for me, I used to do that a lot. Like, I would grab stuff off Amazon or off eBay, but lately, like you and I have been talking about, just like privately, it's all about like the find. It's all about like going out and digging to find this cool stuff, because that's like part of the journey, right?
At this point, like, I think I've gotten most of the stuff that I've wanted to get.
Right.
And now I'm kind of like picking up additional things that I either had, and it wasn't so great that I had to immediately get it back, but now I'm like, well, I need that next thing.